Most people test out a headset for a week and call it a review. I've raced with these headsets for months, and after hundreds of hours of driving, building setups, doing an endurance, 60-minute races, I'll tell you how the Crystal Light, Crystal Super, 50 ppd, 57 ppd and Ultrawide stack up. I've been sim racing for years and have been only doing this in VR. I started with the Quest 2, HP Reverb, Crystal Light and the 3 Super headsets. Let's get into it. So when I upgraded my HP Reverb to this Crystal Light, I was happy. I did races, I did streaming, I did car setup building, I did everything, and if Pimax hadn't approached me, I would probably still use it to this day. When they approached me to test out the Super headsets, all 3 of them, which I extensively used, I was kinda like, yeah, man, I don't know, because it's gonna be better, it's not gonna be better, I can't go back to my Crystal Light, you know? So they made me an offer and I accepted. So if you're wondering, is it then a sponsored video? Yes. But do I like these headsets? Yes. And in the channel on the live streams you can see it. I'm using them all the time. So which one should you get then, if you wanted one? Let me explain the differences. Now, to explain the experience, when I started with the HP Reverb, that I thought it was fine at the time, but I will try to explain how this overall my experience is and how these upgrades can look. So on the HP Reverb, when I was putting it on, you really need to position it perfectly and then you get the good image. And I think the HP Reverb looked a lot better than the Quest 2 in that, exactly in that middle point. But it was very narrow field of view. It's looking to a binocular in a way. So imagine this difference to a Crystal Light. So the biggest difference I found is that the overall picture in the center was looking better, but also the sweet spot is bigger, so it's easier to put it on. You have a bigger center of clarity, and you can also kind of look around, but the field of view was only a little bit bigger, or it wasn't really noticeable. It like when I tested it at the time, I put on the light, it was like, yeah, okay, it's not big difference on field of view, but the overall experience with like blacks was better, and I got more sight, and obviously we have the higher resolution. Then the 57 ppd. Now take note, you're jumping in price at this point. You're paying a lot more now. It's like double almost. But what I got was this difference. The sweet spot is kind of the same, but the overall picture, and especially in the far sight, was a lot better. Now take note, the 57 ppd, although it is running at an insanely high resolution than the Crystal Light, the actual GPU load did not go up that much. So if you use some foveated rendering and you pixelate the outer edges even more, or you take a little bit of a smaller sweet spot with OpenXR, or with the different settings you can use in the Pimax Play, you could definitely play around with this. But there's something people don't say about the 57 ppd compared to the Ultrawide. I will get into that as well. And with the 57 ppd, you can push higher resolution on the same GPU. And if you got like fences and far sight, so these trees over here all the way in the far sight, and the really far away particles are gonna be so much better in the 57 ppd. So you're going to make the trade-off of, yes, you're gonna have a more narrow view, it's gonna be smaller and everything, but looking to the far sight and the overall sweet spot picture, it is something else compared to the 50 ppd and the Ultrawide. So that's always a trade-off you need to make. Also with the 50 ppd, when you go outside of this sweet spot, yes, you can have this area, but it's gonna be difficult to look at the delta. You kind of need to move your head around more. That's the trade-off. If you have a mid-tier GPU, let's say 3080, 4070 Ti or equivalent, maybe AMD, I don't know, then you'll get the best picture with this one. There's just more clarity possible with a little bit of a weaker system. For reference, when running a sharp picture over here, I got like 6 ms frame time on 72 Hz. If I want to create the same clarity on the 50 ppd or ultrawide, I'm on like 12 ms. I'm not joking. It's a big difference. If you're considering purchasing one of these headsets, check the links down below. There are some Black Friday deals over there. Also, you can return these headsets within 14 days. So if you don't like them, you can just send them back and get your money back. And if you use the links, I'm forever in your debt, sir. Now, hopefully you could see that. Maybe you need to zoom the video a little bit. But coming from a 57 ppd through the 50 ppd, this difference on the same load, okay? So it's gonna be interesting to compare the ultrawide to the 50 ppd because I'll show you. Basically, the 50 ppd and the ultrawide is, I think it's a bit like the 50 ppd and ultrawide. It gives you more space for up and down, which in sim racing, I don't know, maybe in open wheelers this is gonna be very important to you. I'm really into GT3 and in cockpit like cars. So then again, if you're really more into helmet and in-car driving, again, 57 ppd makes sense. If I needed to bet all my money on it, I would just go for the normal 50 ppd. And then people might say, why not the ultrawide? Well, if I put the 50 ppd on labs mode, which makes more possibilities into getting a wider field of view, I don't really see the difference between ultrawide. So I'm gonna leave you with this question, ultrawide or 50 ppd. To me, it makes not a lot of sense. I'm using now the ultrawide and I'm using the 50 ppd, and looking at them, I'm switching them around all the time to make an informed decision. And I think the ultrawide just gives you like this difference, like a little bit more. So I think it's especially important. If you're absolutely a sucker for this ultrawide, then do it. If you already have the 50 ppd, you don't really miss out. If you now see 50 or see ultrawides popping up everywhere, I don't think it's that big of a difference. Something to note, however, when you're running a 50 ppd with a lower system, it's gonna look, the thin lines are gonna be more like pixelating, a little bit like a, how do you call it, like a little bit snowy at times. So if you have fences and thin lines, you're gonna see these lines a little bit. And especially when you again have to drop the scale of resolution a little bit, you're gonna suffer that, obviously. So now something you might ask, should I again get the light or the super? And I think it's a hard question to answer. I'll say that I've used the supers now for 3 months and I'm like doing the sim racing stuff full time. So I have the same amount of time in the super than the light on average. And I put on the light yesterday again. And although I think that like I really wanted to get rid of the light, I really wanted to not use it anymore. So that, I think that is telling that the super headsets are a lot better. And as again, was I explaining before, the way it looks, the adjustabilities you have, and the features that the super headsets have with eye tracking, though it is not supported in Le Mans Ultimate. But I like, if you see these Pimax Play updates all the time. If you look at this screen for a moment, with a Super you got device settings, and you get like you can play around with a lot of these settings. If you want to use these settings, I have a link down below on my free Patreon. You can see which settings that I'm using for this game. There's a lot of stuff. This is important, 50 Hertz. I'm using this one. You can use brightness, sliders, whatever, eye tracking. You can have all these adjustabilities that you can use to optimize your experience. Also, something I want to note quickly is that the support, so you can open a ticket here on the bottom right and you can get that customer support, and they are really quick with their responses. So because it's not plug and play all the time, you might have issues sometimes, then you can really get their support as well. Another feature that they just pushed with these updates is this narrow field of view. So you can use narrow, and that will probably give you some overhead as well. Also, this sharpness thing has been added, and my prediction is that when you're using a Super, you got also more things going on here that you can adjust. So if you want to have a future-proof headset, I think the Super is the way to go. Then I will talk about the weight of the headsets, because the weight... The Super is a bit heavier than the Crystal Light, although it looks smaller. I'm gonna have to say that when I'm like on stream as well, you could see I'm talking. I can immediately drop it on my face, but it's not really pushing into my skull. It's really not pushing on my head. And this original strap, when you buy it, you also have another top strap for different adjustabilities. I think you can buy different foams. I did an endurance with this, and I'm gonna do an endurance 29 of November, 24 hours of Le Mans. And although there is some heat coming from the front of this device, that heat is not really being translated on my eyes. And again, you can also change a lot of brightness settings. You can dial it down if you have more of an eye strain. Again, like I said, I've been using this particular Super headsets for over 100 hours. And long races and like these headsets, they just perform for me. Again, you can see on the channel, I'm using them all the time, and I really believe in these products. So I will also test out the future headsets of Pimax. So the Dream Air, the OLED, and that's also something to concern, that people say, should I get then the OLED or should I get whatever? The local dimming on the QLEDs, I think it's pretty good. If you're driving at nighttime, it is an absolute blackness. The only difference is, however, if you would have like a pop-up chat from, let's say I have my live stream chat on the top of my window. If that would be white and I would be driving nighttime, then you would see that blur a little bit on the QLED. But I think if you're just driving, racing, and you have white lights from your dashboard or from the environment, it looks absolutely natural. And also the OLED kind of a discussion, sometimes it's represented in a way that OLED is the absolute solution, but that comes with downsides as well. So there's always these trade-offs you're going to make, same as the 57 ppd, same as the Crystal Light, field of view, GPU load. At the time, we cannot push 20K resolution and only have like a 1080 graphics card to do so. It's just the way of VR is right now. But yeah, I hope that kind of helps you to understand these differences. And if you want more detail on VR, how to start VR, sim racing and all that stuff, check this video out. That is a beginner guide for VR to get a better understanding what it means, how it works. Thanks for watching.